Hello everyone. Today's video is a special one. It's the first of what I hope will be many lore videos on the channel and the first in a series on the story of Sam Blackwell. Blackwell's story is the one that hit me the hardest as I played through Fallout 76, and it does every time I encounter it. When I originally set out to tell this story, I planned on doing it all in one video, but as I spent time collecting footage and stumbling down rabbit holes, I realized that that just wasn't going to be realistic. I had a choice. I could either cut parts of the story to make a more digestible, long video, or I could break it up into a few chapters, allowing for time to chase down more information and reflect on the things we find on the journey. Ultimately, I opted for the latter. I'm expecting to tell the story over the span of 4 or 5 chapters, all coming out over the next couple of weeks. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. This story is an example of the original Fallout 76 at its very best. It's a story that is made better as a result of the bleak, lifeless setting. It's one that rewards us as players for being curious, for having an innate desire to explore just for the sake of exploring. We often look back on similar stories from older games, the Keller family holotapes in Fallout 3, Randall Clark in Fallout New Vegas, and appreciate them for their emotional impact despite being told entirely through notes, holotapes, and terminal entries. This story is no different. With that said, it's important to note that this isn't a happy tale. It's ultimately one of loss, loneliness, and regret. And it's a reminder that actual heroes don't usually get happy endings. We'll explore the person that Sam Blackwell was, his impact on the world, the secrets he uncovered, and ultimately what all of that cost him. Without further ado, the story of Sam Blackwell, Chapter 1.
Overseer's log, Free State's bunker. Sam Blackwell and Raleigh Clay. Those damn traitors and their secessionists turned their backs on America to form their free states. Concrete bunkers. You'd never get that past a Vault-Tec radiation proofing inspection, that's for sure. Sounds like they let go of their paranoia long enough to seek out help from the other survivors. Just have to hack this terminal, see what they left behind in there, and what they wanted to do.
One of the first times we hear the name Sam Blackwell is when we find the Overseer's holotape outside Abby's bunker. The Overseer was a loyal and perhaps naive Vault-Tec University student and prospective employee before the war, a time when Blackwell was a highly controversial figure. Her opinion of him and the Free States movement that he was a part of are evident, but what foundation was that opinion built on? Was she a truly well-informed citizen and patriot, or was her zeal ultimately fueled by ambition and a willingness to believe propaganda? We need to learn more for ourselves, and we do as we explore Appalachia. We find news articles and flyers all over the region, left over from that time. The first, and the one that really fueled the controversy around Blackwell, is an interview conducted by Charleston Herald reporter Quinn Carter. The Charleston Herald, the Sam Blackwell interview by Quinn Carter. Amidst mine riots, strikes, and the civil unrest of our time, there is one name that is on everyone's lips: Sam Blackwell. Blackwell started his public life as a union activist, brokering deals between disenfranchised miners and regional powerhouses like Garahan Mining and Hornwright Industrial. His star would only continue to rise during his re-election to the United States Senate, winning with a staggering 73% of the popular vote. It would take the senator's open support of the Appalachian Free States movement, a group of local survivalists with separatist overtones, before his popularity would begin to wane. But as minor scuffles between the Free States and the police broke into open violence, the senator's support for the Free States only grew, as did calls for his resignation. Then, seemingly without warning, the senator vanished. Calls at his Charleston office and home went unanswered. His daughter Judith stopped showing up for classes at VTU. Multiple search parties were organized by police and concerned citizens, but to no end. It was just 3 days ago that an unaddressed letter came across my desk, offering me an interview with the missing senator. Presuming it a hoax, I nonetheless accepted. But it was no hoax. In an exclusive interview, I visited with our controversial former senator in an undisclosed location. I asked Senator Blackwell why it was he left the Senate, presuming the pressure from his constituents had caused him to become disenchanted with public service. But the senator had a far darker message than I could have ever suspected. There are sinister forces at work in the halls of government. I simply could not be a part of that anymore. Pressed for details, Blackwell leveled accusations at the highest echelons of power. The U.S. executive branch, the Department of Agriculture, major corporations. All complicit in a shadowy conspiracy and to whom the American citizen, in the senator's own words, are nothing but pawns in their sick games. His advice to the American people in the face of such a harrowing claim? The only recourse left to the average American is to flee the population centers, head into the wilderness where one can find at least some hope of escaping the lurid gaze of those in government plotting against us. Throughout our conversation, the senator was composed, lucid, clear in his belief that everything he said, no matter how outlandish, was truth. Through an evening of shocking revelations, perhaps least surprising of all was the senator's resignation from the United States Senate. Consider this interview my personal resignation from this government and this nation. And with that, I was ushered out, left to wonder how much should be taken as ravings or as desperate pleas for the safety of his fellow Americans. Knowing what we do about the Fallout universe, we know that Blackwell was telling the truth in this interview. But the average citizen of the pre-war United States didn't have the information that we do. In some circles, Blackwell had already been branded a traitor. The government wanted to arrest him, and many citizens agreed, leading to political flyers like this one calling for boycotts of the Charleston Herald in retaliation for publishing the article, even going so far as to demand that Quinn Carter, a constitutionally protected reporter, be charged with a crime. Sam Blackwell and Quinn Carter, traitors. If you or I sat in a room and recorded a robbery, then refused to give information regarding the culprits, we'd be in jail. But Quinn Carter, despite interviewing a man guilty of a far grander crime, walks free. Support justice and refuse to buy any copies of the Charleston Herald until Quinn Carter is charged with conspiracy to commit treason, or until she reveals the location of the traitor Sam Blackwell and all his fellow Free State secessionists. Charleston Citizens Against Corruption. We also find a response from the Herald's editorial board refusing to give in to the mob, resolutely standing behind Carter and the rights of a free press. We support Quinn Carter by the Charleston Herald editorial board. We, the members of the Charleston Herald editorial board, wish to publicly express our support for Herald reporter Quinn Carter and her continued employment at this periodical. The public cries for Ms. Carter's resignation following her interview with now former Senator Samuel Blackwell stand in stark contrast to our nation's values of freedom of the press and our duty to report crucial news to the public at large. Ms. Carter's interview is fully protected under the laws of our great territory, and as such is under no obligation to reveal the location of Senator Blackwell, regardless of the nature of the statements he made during said interview. Thus, we see no reason to offer any less than our total support of Ms. Carter. The end result of the Sam Blackwell interview was a highly divided Appalachia. Blackwell clearly had his supporters, but an angry mob was starting to wave torches and pitchforks at the gates as well. It's not lost on me how reflective this narrative is of our own time. It seems like every day there's another news story causing people to jump to one side of the fence or the other, typically based on a shrinking amount of information and accompanied by growing vitriol. When people and the messages they hear are divided and polarized, it's easier to take advantage of them or pull the wool over their eyes, which, as we all know, is exactly what the US government in the Fallout universe was doing before the war. To really start to dig deeper into the world that was pre-war Appalachia and find more clues about Blackwell, there's really no better place to begin than Charleston, specifically the offices of the Charleston Herald. Inside, we'll find Quinn Carter's now abandoned workspace, along with the original holotapes of her interview with the senator.
Thank you again for reaching out to me. I can't tell you how shocked I was to find out your letter was the real deal.
Of course, Miss Carter. Hope the trek wasn't too arduous.
It was an experience. Not a lot of my interviews start with a bag over my head. Just glad it didn't end up being a prank, I suppose.
I apologize for that. Maintaining a low profile is a requirement for us now.
And why is that, Senator? Why did you leave your position so suddenly?
Leaving was the only way I thought I'd be able to protect my family, Miss Carter. But I've since realized that I've left a lot of other people I care about in grave danger. I was hoping you could help me correct it.
What are you talking about, Senator?
There are sinister forces at work in the halls of government. I and my fellow members of the free states will no longer be shackled to the putrefying corpse of this nation. No, nor should anyone who values their lives. There is only one recourse left for the people of the United States. Strike out on your own. Take whatever you can carry. Get off the grid and get there fast. The end is coming, Miss Carter. And when it does, your government has no interest in keeping you safe.
Sinister forces? The end is coming? Senator, you're making some big claims here. Do you have evidence to back it up?
This is not some doomsday fever dream, if that's what you're asking, Miss Carter. I received my information from reliable sources. Yes.
And I'm supposed to take your word for it?
You're going to have to, Miss Carter. I'm trying to save lives, not put more at risk by exposing my sources.
Senator, I'm not trying to be rude here, but it sounds like you're trying to start a panic, and without evidence, I'm not willing to be a part of that. I also have it under the strictest confidence that you've been seen making multiple visits to a certain Charleston neurologist as of...
My health is not the issue here, Miss Carter. These are people's lives. The executive branch, captains of industry, the Department of Agriculture. I peeked into their world and they threatened my life, my daughter's life. We're just pawns to them. And the only way we survive is to step off the board. All I'm asking is that you share that message.
I meant no offense. You just have to know how this looks from my end.
I understand. It's just a sensitive topic.
Would you mind if I asked you one last question?
If it means you'll get the word out, go ahead.
You never resigned as senator. Is that something you're planning to do?
I am. Consider this interview my formal resignation. Spread the word, Miss Carter. All I ask is that my warning goes with it. And nothing else. Now, if you wouldn't mind, my daughter and I have a lot to do. We're on our own out here, after all.
Inside the editor's office, we'll get insight into the political intrigue of Appalachia at the time and learn just how dangerous this situation was becoming for Quinn Carter. Automated voting system. We need to monitor this new automated voting system like a hawk. I want names of every engineer they say worked on it, plus their nationalities. We get one foreigner working on American election tech, we got ourselves a story. Ballot Measure 6. Ballot Measure 6 is getting a big push from someone with real money. Automating the entire region's government, this thing has Hornwright prints all over it. Now get me some hard proof. Sam Blackwell article. Quinn, you know I stand by you, but the heat we're getting for this Sam Blackwell interview is getting turned up to fry our hides off levels. A few angry locals and politicians we can tangle, but I'm getting federal calls, Quinn. And they're not subtle. They aren't just threatening to arrest us. You follow? The Herald's never betrayed a source and we're not starting now, but you got a target on your back the size of the Purple Mountains. I want you to buy a gun. I'm serious. And I'm getting you a couple hotel rooms. Don't sleep in the same one twice. Lock the doors at night and don't open them for anyone. This really paints a picture of just how dire this situation was. Not only for Carter, but likely for Blackwell too. The government wouldn't have been making threats if he wasn't onto something. We also learned about Ballot Measure 6, which the editor believes is backed by the Hornwrights, an old adversary of Blackwell's. In our next chapter, we'll continue looking for clues around Charleston, looking for background at Hornwright HQ, and we'll see what secrets can be revealed when we break into Blackwell's office at the Capitol. This story isn't one you'll want to miss, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification button so you know the moment the next chapter is posted. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm Fisty McRib.